Well, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm working on some things on the Peterbilt cab over, some things I just haven't had a chance to do yet, meaning to do, and today's a good day to do that. One of them is my boost gauge. So here's the boost gauge I put in. It's a used boost gauge, bought it off of eBay. The thing, if you buy stuff off of eBay, you never know, is it gonna work or not? And I actually didn't even test it out before I put it in and hooked it up. So I think the best way to test this boost gauge is going to be to test actually the whole system. Make sure there's no leaks anywhere. Make sure the whole system can actually hold, say, 15 pounds of pressure. And to do that, I had to build a little tool. So here's a little tool I came up with to check this air pressure. Make sure this boost gauge is working and we don't have any leaks. I took a old air intake pipe from a Big Cam 4. I had already cut it up, using it for parts for building another pipe. And what this does is it will just connect straight to the intake pipe, pull the pipe off the turbo on the truck, and then connect it straight to it. Should make it a real easy fit. And then I put a piece of flat metal and just welded it on the end, where it was already cut. Didn't even make it look fancy or anything, and welded some nuts in there and used an air gauge I have sitting around, an air valve. I'll be able to let air in and out. Make sure I'm not going too high, and then I'll be able to test that boost gauge and then see if we have any air leaks. All right, so I went ahead and I took my intake pipe and I moved it over here so it's easier to hook this up to it. I'll just put it inside of this boot. That right there is my boost line. I've just got it connected right to the aftercooler, and then a line that runs all the way into the cab. So we're gonna hook this up and see what we got going. Ready to go ahead and hook this up. Oh man, I tell you, it's hot out here today. It's in the upper 80s. And it's November. Got my airline here. I'm just gonna hook it up. And let's see how much air we can put in here. We're at 20. Boost leaking. So I am holding a steady 15 right here with the air compressor running, which is great, but I do hear air leaking somewhere. It's not on this boot anymore. So we're gonna have to investigate that, but let's see if the boost gauge is working. For this one, we gotta climb a ladder to get inside. Let's see. So the boost gauge is working, which is great, but we do have an air leak somewhere. Got some soapy water and it sounds like it's coming. Yep. Oh, bummer. So the aftercooler is leaking. You can see it really good from there, just pulling air right out of there. After taking a closer look at it, I've got good news, bad news. Bad news is the aftercooler has a leak in it. I'm gonna have to take it apart, put a new gasket kit in it, and get this thing working right. The good news is I didn't use my stock aftercooler, which can't be taken apart. So I'm not gonna have to like buy a new aftercooler. I just gotta put this gasket kit in it. It costs like 200 bucks. Okay, so now we're ready to party here. And I decided to do a video of this really because there's not a lot of information out there about these aftercoolers. And the thing is, with these old trucks, it's harder and harder to find, one, to find a part like this, but two, to find information, because a lot of the people that worked on these, they are not around anymore. So I thought we'd just go ahead and do a video because it might be useful to somebody. Let's take all these bolts out. Ooh, very dirty. I'll start with the outside ones. That's not good. Okay. I do not want to break any more of these. Nice and easy, come on. Come on. Oh. Ooh. Okay, now the rest of these bolts, I think, go all the way through. Okay, I don't want it to fall apart until I put it down. I don't want the cover to come off. I want to be able to see where everything goes. All right. This little thing's got to come off. Oh, man. You better come out of there. Okay. Whew. I was worried there. Couldn't handle another one breaking off. Let's see what we got. Okay, so we got a big washer here. Where it's coming out, looks like these gaskets right here have wore down. I don't know if you can see it better from here. But right here, you can see it's wore down. And that's where all the air is coming out. And then maybe back inside of here, this gasket's not doing its job either. So we can see this gasket looks wore out as well. So all of these could probably use a changing. And this could use some cleaning. Wonder if this just comes off of there like that. So we've got a line here, a line here. So all this needs to be cleaned up. These gaskets taken out. You need a new gasket for this on this end. This right here actually doesn't look too bad. We'll clean it up a little bit more, but it actually looks really good for being 30 years old, over 30 years old. And what's this? This looks like some kind of silicone that was put in. So probably got to add that back in just to fill this gap in. This would be a breakdown you definitely wouldn't want to have out on the road. I can't imagine how you would get this repaired. I'd hate to see the bill. Well, I think this is going to take a little while. So I'm going to go ahead and when you see it next, it'll be nice and clean. Well, I got that little bolt out that broke off, and what a burger that was. I'd be filming for a long time if I showed the whole process of that. Some of these little things will take all your time. I was able to drill a hole through it, And then I use an extractor. I bought these extraction tools, but they have a limit. They have a lifetime warranty, so I can take this back and they'll just give me a new one. And when those break off, that is a booger as well. But I was able to weld on the end and then pull it out and use a bigger one, and then it finally came out nice and easy. But I'm very happy that I got this out without destroying anything. So that's definitely a victory. So here's the cover. I have scuffed up some of this paint. The gasket goes on the outside, and you could see where that was kind of peeling up some of the paint, and then it was you can see some of these starting to get some corrosion around there. So I decided to go ahead and scuff up some of that paint. Some of this is pretty serious, but the gasket goes about right here, so that should be okay. But I definitely wanted to make sure this area, which was really bad, was scuffed up. And we'll put some sealer, some primer on here, and then we will go ahead and repaint this so that we can hopefully have a really nice seal. This is the finished product. This is the inside of that cover. It's all painted up. Got 2 coats of Rust-Oleum on there, and let it sit over the weekend so the paint has enough time to really dry. And that way the gaskets don't get stuck to the paint and possibly pull the paint back off the cover. But other than that, we're ready to go. So we've got everything cleaned up. You can see this has all been cleaned up. This was actually a lot more difficult. This is aluminum. This part is aluminum, that part's not. But because it's aluminum, you've got to be careful when cleaning this out. You can't use like an aggressive wire brush or something where you'll really start to scrape up your housing. So we had to scrape all those gaskets out. They're 30 something years old, and at least I'm thinking they're 30 years old. They're probably newer, but it took a long time to scrape all of that out and to make sure this is all nice and clean so that we have a level surface. Here's the intercooler. I was able to clean it up. You can buy these for about $1,200 to $1,500, I think. But this one looks like it's okay. You can see the fins look pretty solid inside of here. It takes a little while to get it all clean because of course you don't want any debris going into your engine. This was siliconed in. I removed the old silicone and put new silicone there. I think what it does is it stops the air from coming in here and then blowing back out the side. I think there's a gasket around this area that helps prevent that. But since it was already here, I went ahead and put that there because I couldn't find the instructions to put these things back together, not this particular model. I bought a gasket kit online from American Cooling Systems. This gasket kit was over $200, but Cummins, they wanted like $1,700 or something crazy for gaskets. So I think one of the issues that might have had is the previous gasket was kind of at an angle like this. And I think they're supposed to be straight on because they fit perfectly inside these grooves that are on this cover. So that's going to be interesting putting that back on. But I think it came with 2. I only had 1 when I took it apart. So maybe that will also help if we make sure those grooves line up. And it's got a washer that goes here for the drain plug. And we've got a couple of these gaskets that go on the intercooler. We've got our gasket for our piping, and then we've got these gaskets. So one's really long, that'll be your outside edge. I'm going to wait to do that one, but we'll do the inside here. And I'm guessing that you have to cut these. Yeah, I'm guessing. This is all a wild gamble here. Fits in there like that. And then it sticks out here. This one curls around. And then goes inside. Okay, so we'll pull this aside. Let's grab our gasket like this and start putting it together. Like that. Then we've got these little numbers. You can see what they do is they go on top here like this, and it blocks the air from being able to come out the sides and it forces it to go down into the radiator portion. It's kind of hard to tell how the old ones went on because they really kind of melted inside of there. Hopefully we're lined up. We might have to make some adjustments when we try to put it in. Let's go ahead and put this one on too. Okay. Let's move this out of the way. Make sure my gaskets are all in their grooves. Make sure my gaskets didn't move. You can see this gasket doesn't quite line up, and neither does this one. Pull this off. So I think that's seated in there nice. Should be fine. So that's going to go on here like that. And I'll just put this back on here for right now. And we'll grab this long one here. We'll start putting it in. We got a knot. Don't need that. So we'll start here and work our way around all these little grooves. Let's do a test fit. See how this is gonna, without putting that gasket in. See how this all lines up. Looks like it did fine. So these are my intakes. So I don't put bolts in these right here. The rest will get bolts. We can start trying to work those in. Two. These two longer ones, I think they work good right here. Do a last check over, because once it's in, baby, it's in. You don't want to have to take it apart again. Hope that that is going to be a good seal to keep air from blowing out here. But it does, all the air will be forced to go through the radiator portion because of this gasket here and this gasket here. Now we've got the gaskets laid in there. Let's see how she wants to go together. All right, let's look. Let's take a peek. Is it falling in the grooves? I got some new hardware because after that one bolt broke off, I noticed that it looks like maybe a couple of these other ones had broke off by the previous owner. And so I decided, you know what, let's not take a chance. Let's start with some new hardware. So that way we have a good opportunity to take them out again. Oh, don't need to do that. Opportunity to take them out again if there's an event in the next couple of years. We want to take it apart. We don't have to go try to find a new case, because that seems like it would be a challenge. There is a specific way to torque this. These bolts all get torqued to 30, not the ones that mount to the block, the heads, but the ones that hold this core together are to 30, and there is a specific order. So I'm just trying to get it started, all the bolts. That way the core kind of lines itself up as you torque it down. Little problem child over here. The one that gave me hours of fun. Will it go in nice and smooth? I think it will. That's great. Okay, so we're ready to start torquing, and I was able to find a spec sheet with the torque and the sequences. 30 foot-pounds, and I think we start right here. Yep. So boom, boom, boom. Right here is 1, then 2, then 3, and so on. Got our torque wrench set to 30 foot-pounds, and it doesn't say, you know, to torque it to 15 and then to 30, like you would think. One down, 20 something to go. All right. Ouch. Okay. So that didn't work. So what you just saw me bust my knuckle on was this particular bolt right here. Previous owner, I don't know who, before I ever owned the engine, had probably broke a bolt off in there, and they put a 1/4 inch screw inside of there instead of the 5/16. So I could see the remaining part of the screw, and I just tried to extract it, barely moved it around, and it, of course, it just crumbled and broke off. So that had me a little bit afraid. But I was able to get a 5/16 inch screw in there now, and we got plenty of pressure on there at this point. So I'm much happier with it. And the same was with this screw where our original leak was. They had a 1/4 inch bolt in there instead of a 5/16. So I didn't even try to extract it, because you can see I don't have much left. If that were to break off, I'd be in a lot of trouble. So I just drilled it out and put a 5/16 inch bolt inside of there. And then I had this bolt right here. This one was that one that broke off originally, and I was able to extract it, but through the heating it up, the putting oil inside of it, it did enough just to, those threads were in there and corroded so much that those threads just didn't hold up under torque. So I put a 1/4 inch bolt inside of here, and this kind of does go at an angle, so I had to shave part of the bolt down, not the actual bolt part, but the head of it, and then put the bolt in. Hopefully that's going to hold up. The bright spot is these intake bolts are right here where that bolt is, and those do torque down a lot compared to the housing bolts. So hopefully we have enough pressure. We're going to check for leaks, and hopefully that all works out. Now I'm just going to go through one more time, make sure everything's torqued down, make sure nothing, nothing loosened up while doing the whole torque. So I'm just going to go through the same bolt pattern again, and we're just going to make sure make sure it's all torqued up right. So 5,
Okay, that looks good. Needs a little touch-up paint, but I think we're gonna wait and see if it has any leaks. We'll tighten this down a little bit, make sure that that's nice and sealed. But other than that, hopefully we have ourselves an air cooler that will no longer be leaking out all that boost. We got our new gaskets installed and we're ready to get started. So let's put that Aftercooler in. Okay, now we're cooking. So we've got our bolts in, and this is gonna get torqued to 50 foot-pounds. And the sequence goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then 7, 8, and then 9. Pretty simple. So we'll put that at 50. We'll be about ready for a test. Well, now it's the moment of truth. We're gonna see if this thing is now fixed. I'm gonna hook some air up to it. Hopefully this thing doesn't leak. This is the most exciting part. It's also the most nerve-wracking part, because if it doesn't work out, then you have to start over. Let's see. All right. It sounds like it's leaking air. All right, so I am holding 30 pounds of boost pressure. The leak up there ended up being the boot. It wasn't quite on there correctly. It is kind of weird with all this pressure on it, but I am holding 30 pounds now. I did find one small leak, and it's in a weird spot. Let me show you. This little bolt right here is leaking. That is so odd. It is just in the weirdest spot. So I think I'm gonna have to change that washer out. I tried to put a new washer in there, but I'm gonna try to find a different washer that meets like these specs. So I'm not gonna hook it up to air anymore because it was just a very small amount that's coming out. It's actually holding air really well. I'm really happy with how everything turned out. So hopefully from here, I'm actually able to count on the boost gauge working. Well, I'm gonna get the coolant back in this thing so it's ready to run. Thanks for stopping by. See you on the next one.